Heidi-ho, good neighbors. I'm back again. Today we're going to read chapters 1 and 2 of Magic Treehouse, Night of the Ninjas. One summer day in Frog Creek, Pennsylvania, a mysterious treehouse appeared in the woods. 8-year-old Jack and his 7-year-old sister Annie climbed into the treehouse, and they found it was filled with books. Jack and Annie soon discovered that the treehouse was magic. It could take them to places in the books. All they had to do was point to the picture and wish they were there. Jack and Annie visited the time of the dinosaurs, Old England, ancient Egypt, and a pirate ship. Along the way, they discovered that the treehouse belonged to Morgan Le Fay. Morgan was a magical librarian from the time of King Arthur. She traveled through time and space gathering books. Jack and Annie were about to start a whole new adventure in Night of the Ninjas. "Let's look again," said Jack. Jack and Annie were walking home from the library. The path went right by Frog Creek Woods. Jack sighed. "We looked this morning. We looked the day before, and the day before that." "Then you don't have to come," said Annie. "I'll look by myself." She took off into the woods. "Annie, wait," Jack called. "It's almost dark. We have to get home." But Annie had disappeared among the trees. Jack stared at the woods. He was starting to lose hope. Maybe he would never see Morgan again. Weeks had passed, and there had not been one sign of Morgan Le Fay, nor had there been a sign of her treehouse. "Jack," Annie called from the woods, "it's back." "Oh, she's just pretending as usual," Jack thought, but his heart started to race. "Hurry," she called. "She better not be kidding," said Jack. He took off into the woods to find Annie. Night was falling fast. Crickets chirped loudly. It was hard to see through the shadows. "Annie!" Jack shouted. "Here," she called. Annie kept walking. "Here where?" he called back. "Here, here." A voice came from above. Jack looked up. "Oh, man," he breathed. Annie waved from the window of the treehouse. It was the tallest oak in the woods. A long rope ladder hung down from it. The magic treehouse was back. "Come on up," shouted Annie. Jack ran to the rope ladder. He started climbing. He climbed and climbed and climbed. As he climbed, he looked out over the woods, high above the tree tops. It was still light. At last, Jack pulled himself into the treehouse. Annie sat in the shadows. Books were scattered everywhere. On the floor, the letter M glowed in the dim light. The M stood for Morgan Le Fay. But there was no sign of Morgan herself. "I wonder where Morgan is," Jack said. "Maybe she went to the library to get more books," said Annie. "We were just at the library, would have seen her," said Jack. "Besides, the library's closed now." Squeak! A little mouse ran from behind a stack of books. It ran to the M shining on the floor. "Yikes," said Annie. "The mouse sat on the middle of the M." And it looked up at Jack and Annie. "Oh, it's so cute," Annie said. Jack had to admit the mouse was cute. It had brown and white fur and big dark eyes. Annie slowly reached out her hand. The mouse didn't move. Annie patted its tiny head. "Hi, Peanut," she said. "Can I call you Peanut?" "Oh, brother," said Jack. "Do you know where Morgan is?" Annie asked the mouse. Squeak! "You're nuts, Annie," said Jack. "Just because the mouse is in the treehouse doesn't mean it's magic. It's just a plain old mouse that crawled in, that's all." Jack looked around again. He saw a piece of paper on the floor. "What's that?" he said. "What's what?" said Annie. Jack went over and picked up the paper. There was writing on it. "Oh, man," whispered Jack after reading the words. "What is it?" said Annie. "A note," said Jack, "and it must be from Morgan. I think she's in trouble." Jack showed Annie the piece of paper. It said, "Help me. Under a spell. Find for Thin." "Oh, no," said Annie. "We have to help her, but what's a Thin?" "Maybe she was trying to write things," said Jack. "See how the N sort of runs off the page? Maybe the spell was starting to make her disappear or something," said Annie. "Right," said Jack. "I wonder if she left any other clues." He glanced around the treehouse. "Look," pointed Annie to a book in the corner. "That's the only open book," she said. Jack looked around again. Annie was right. He felt a shiver go down his spine. Jack went over to the book, picked it up. He held it near the window. The light from the setting sun was golden on the page. Jack stared at the picture on it. In the picture were trees with white flowers. The trees were on the side of a mountain near a wide rushing stream. 2 people were also in the picture. They wore dark clothes, and they had black scarves over their faces and long swords strapped to their back. "Oh, man," whispered Jack. "Who are they?" asked Annie. "Ninjas, I think," said Jack. "Ninjas, really?" said Annie. "Morgan must have left the book open to this page for a reason," said Jack. "Maybe that's where she was when she got a spell on her," said Annie. "Or maybe that's where the 4 things are," said Jack. "Let's go," said Annie. "Now?" said Jack. "Yes, Morgan's in trouble and she needs us now," said Annie. "But we should read this book first," said Jack, "so we'll be prepared." "Forget it," said Annie. "Every minute counts," and she grabbed the book from Jack. "Give it back," he said. "We have to find out about this place." Annie held the book out of reach. "We'll find out when we get there," she said. "We don't even know where there is," said Jack, but Annie pointed to the picture. "I wish we could go there," she said. The leaves of the oak tree began to shake. Squeak! "Don't be scared, Peanut," said Annie. She scooped up the mouse, then she put it in the pouch of her sweatshirt. The wind began to blow. It blew harder and harder, and the treehouse started to spin faster and faster. Jack squeezed his eyes shut. Then everything was still. Absolutely still, except for the sound of the rushing water. And that's the end of chapter 1 and chapter 2. I'll see you again soon. Bye.